Hi, everybody. This is the SMC Journal podcast, the show that's all about modern IT, software engineering, testing, tuning, observability, security, AI, and all kinds of other stuff that have to do with our lives in IT today. I am Scott Moore, your host. Thank you so much for joining me. You know, we have talked about observability a lot this year. We've just had a couple of shows about real user monitoring. Well, now I want to talk about synthetic, or what's sometimes called active monitoring. I recently had a post on LinkedIn on the social network and asked, how would you, if you just had a plain website, let's say you had a WordPress website and you wanted to monitor, is it up? Is it performing well? Just to do some basic checking and then use a tool to automate that and see the visual results of that. Now, I know how people would do it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, but has that changed? That was really my question. I got answers from all over the board saying, well, we're still using this tool from 10 years ago and we create these scripts and somebody in QA does this. And it seemed like it was a little bit long in the tooth to me. I wanted to know if there was another more modern way to do it, especially when you're in DevOps and a continuous testing, continuous deployment. What about a continuous monitoring environment, especially for even something simple like that? And I had people saying, well, you got to connect this tool to that tool and this tool. By the time you're done to check a simple website, you had 6 tools running. I don't know that that's the best solution either. So that led me to the search for a solution and something that I would personally use. And that led me to finding this company that I'm going to talk to today. And if I were to tell you there is a modern solution where, just like if you're familiar with infrastructure as code, where you build some kind of a YAML file, you build some code and you deploy it into a pipeline and it's always running, and it does what maybe it spins up machine. You're used to that because you're used to Ansible and Terraform and Puppet and those types of technologies. But what if I told you there's a synthetic monitoring tool that does all of that as well, integrates with other visualization solutions out there, and is made for modern CI/CD deployment? Would you be interested? I think you would. So we're going to talk about that today. But before we do, let's talk about the sponsors that make this show possible for you to watch. This podcast is sponsored by Saltworks Security. For almost 10 years, Saltworks has delivered world-class application security services and products designed to help enterprises secure their applications from policy to production in an ever-changing security landscape. They're the makers of SaltMiner, an application security management platform designed by security professionals for security professionals. SaltMiner aggregates and normalizes the issues found by many different solutions and enriches that data with business context. SaltMiner gives team members from the C-suite, security, and development teams the ability to manage their application security program through customizable views. The Saltworks SaltMiner Community Edition is a free penetration testing management and delivery application. It provides teams with custom reporting for potentially thousands of end users, red team support, and the ability to manage new and retesting of engagements. SaltMiner Community Edition also allows teams to enforce both testing methodologies and custom vulnerability databases for consistency in engagement delivery. Check them out today at saltworks.io. Do you need unbreakable network connectivity? West Networks can help. They're a leading provider of peplink-based SD-WAN solutions, and they can help you achieve unbreakable connectivity by utilizing Peplink's SpeedFusion bandwidth bonding technology. Since 2012, West Networks has been assisting those in the mobile health services space by providing communities with access to life-saving technology. They also work with mobile command field units like first responders and news agencies, delivering faster and reliable access to mission-critical information all the time. Whether you're an IT professional who needs to work from anywhere or a full-time vacationing traveler in the RV community, West Networks can help you stay connected all the time from anywhere. Large enterprises can save up to 83% off cost while expanding communications and reliability beyond a single carrier with West Networks Peplink-based SD-WAN solutions. They can help you replace expensive MPLS connections with SpeedFusion's site-to-site unbreakable VPN technology. So no matter what your needs are, West Networks can help you achieve unbreakable connectivity. Contact them today to learn more. Thank you, sponsors, for being thought leadership superheroes by sponsoring the greatest show on the internet today, the SMC Journal podcast, although I'm a little biased. Now, on to the rest of our show. Let's talk about this new product that I've discovered, which I'm trying not to be too much of a fanboy about, but I think you're going to like it. What is monitoring as code, and is this the future of active and synthetic monitoring, especially in a DevOps culture? Let's go talk to Hans at Checkly. Hans, welcome to the SMC Journal podcast. It's great to have you on today.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the
So today's topic, I want to talk about monitoring as code and the state of active or synthetic monitoring of websites and applications. And you are probably the best person to talk to about that. I would love for you to introduce yourself and talk about how you got involved in active monitoring.
Of course, absolutely happy to give you a bit of background on myself. I'm Hannes. I'm living in Germany, Berlin, as you might have figured out by my accent already, right? So I started my career as a software engineer, and in 2011 founded my first business, which was called TestObject. And what we did is software as a service for mobile testers. So we allowed mobile testers to test their newest iPhone apps and Android apps on thousands of mobile devices. I sold that business in 2016 to a company called Source Labs and became general manager here in EMEA there. And I had the pleasure to grow my existing team quite substantially, and also work with hundreds of customers here on the ground, right? So I had a fantastic time there. But also during that time, from 2016 to 2020, I've seen the industry changing, right? I've seen how DevOps changed how we build software, not only build software, but also test and operate software. And today, you have much more integrated teams, right? And what was manual work back then is hopefully automated to enable you to move faster, to deploy more often. Right, and I've seen developers thinking about automation and not only siloed test and operations teams. And what that requires, from my point of view, and this is why we do Checkly, is a product for automation, which is much more integrated in your CI/CD process, which is code-driven and driven by open source technologies like Playwright, driven by JavaScript and TypeScript. And this is what we built with Checkly today, right? So we enable you to monitor your APIs and your website continuously with synthetic users, right? Driven by open technologies and as code. And that's what we call monitoring as code.
Awesome. So let's talk about this synthetic monitoring, because this is not something new. I've been involved in synthetic monitoring for over 20 years myself, because I remember the kind of the start of this where QA testers were just experimenting with automation, and they said, you know what, why can't we take an automated script and monitor to use this to run it in production? Maybe if from a performance standpoint, we can grab timings and we can throw those into some kind of a database and then create a visualization for it. And all of a sudden tools began to emerge around that. So APM kind of developed from that. But today, if I ask the same question, like how would we do synthetic monitoring, as you said, things have changed. So we have to kind of change with that. So the evolution of this, as you talk about, is monitoring that as code instead of just creating the old. Can you talk a little bit about how we've had to transition between the old way of doing things to the new way, and defining monitoring as code for us?
Yes, of course. So what we want to achieve with synthetic monitoring is still the same goal in the end, right? So we want to understand, is my system running and working from an end user perspective? So we really want that clear signal. If I'm an e-commerce company, want to understand, is my online shop working for that user? Is that user able to buy my products, right? And synthetic monitoring is still delivering this clear signal. Now, what changed during the last years, and what we try to achieve here with monitoring as code, is that we allow you to configure that in your repository. It's nothing more, it's nothing less.
Mm-hmm.
You might have heard the term ClickOps, where traditionally you have to go into a platform, and there you have to define your automation scripts, where we allow you to do that in a repository. And quite frankly, we take principles from infrastructure as code, right, which is there now since a while, and end-to-end testing, right? So Selenium, etc. All this operated from your repository since a while. In monitoring and observability, that wasn't the case so far. So we're taking these principles and allow you to host your automation scripts as code. But not only that, right? It includes pretty much everything, right? All your configurations, all your alert channels, dashboards, private locations, and allow you to check these into your repository. And what that enables is it makes monitoring a team sport, because all of a sudden you can work with your whole DevOps team on synthetic monitoring. And the moment you're changing an endpoint or changing your UI, you can adapt that monitoring script right away within your CI/CD process, right? So when the new version of your API hits production, your monitoring is adapted and will not alert your engineers just because it's an old automation script. And that's what we do, right? So we pretty much shift monitoring left to the actual developer, but not only to the developer, to the cross-function DevOps team in the end, right? So and that's what we try to achieve with monitoring as code.
I mean, if you're in a DevOps culture, everything that should be automated, that can be automated, probably should be, and everything that is automated should probably be continuous if possible to keep that shift left going. So totally agree with that and love this solution, by the way. But now let me play devil's advocate for just a moment, because I do have people, we just did a show a couple of weeks ago about real user monitoring. And so we have a RUM tool, and people might say, hey, we already use real user monitoring with real sessions and real active. Why would we need a synthetic monitor? Because a synthetic monitor may just be going down a happy path, whereas with real user monitoring, we see what people are actually going to. Now, I'm an advocate that we have to have both, but what do you think about that?
So I agree with you. I think we have to have both, right? But what we want to achieve with synthetic monitoring is to ensure that the most crucial transactions are tested even before a real user experiences an issue, right? So right after I deploy my new version of my application to production, I want to kick off a synthetic monitoring, right? Almost as testing. And I could also use synthetic monitoring as testing. Think about it, right? So if you have your automated test scripts in a repository, then you're able to use these on staging continuously as monitors, monitor your staging. You can also use that as testing. Right after deploying to staging or deploying to production. And this really enables you to catch bugs early before any real user is able to catch these bugs. Of course, mostly you're testing your happy path there, and the most crucial paths there. There might be real users experiencing other issues, and you want to know about these. The question is, do you want to get alerted about every nitty-gritty problem a real user might have? Do you want to wake up in the middle of the night because of that? Or should, the most crucial path, going back to the e-commerce shop, putting products in a shopping cart and checking out these products, should that wake up your engineers in the middle of the night if that doesn't work? I believe so, right? And for these kind of crucial transactions, you want to have synthetic monitoring in place.
Great answer. So let's talk about a little bit how this works. So people who want to use your product, Checkly, they would create like a JSON, a YAML file, right? And they would probably use JSON or some kind of language like that. And then it's going to run. My understanding is it's like an instantiating a real browser, a full browser that's actually running like a user would, and capturing metrics from that, telling you whether it's just you can't find something, or you tell me a little bit about that, how it actually works.
Yes, yes. So we operate on two layers, right? So one layer is API testing and API monitoring, and the other one is browsers. And for browsers, you're really spot on, right? So our users would create automated scripts in TypeScript and JavaScript, right? So it's not no YAML. It's it's really code
Mm-hmm.
they would create. Um, and when they have these automated code, which they, by the way, are also able to record, because there's a playwright recorder, which is called CodeGen. So you can record what you're doing in your browser and generate a basic automation script from there, put it in your repository, and deploy it to Checkly. Right? We allow you to deploy automation to Checkly where two, or actually three ways, right? So one is Terraform. The other one is is Pulumni. So we have a Pulumni provider, Terraform provider, and then we have our own CLI. Right? In Terraform and Pulumni, our users or customers are using that if they are already known, or if these are known tools in their organization, while our CLI often gets used if there's no Terraform and Pulumni in place, or if the customers want to have a more. So that's for the browser side of things, but it's also true for API checks, right? So we allow you to define your API checks as a code script, right? So it's JavaScript, it's TypeScript, and then also deploy that to Checkly with Terraform with our CLI. So in the end, Scott, what we're doing is we're executing code at scale, right? And in 21 different data centers worldwide, maybe also in your private location, right? And we do that. We try to do that very reliably, so that we're not waking up your engineers in the middle of the night because of a false positive.
What kind of metrics can I get from this? Is it just verification that something is there, not there, generating an alert from that? Do we get performance metrics out of that? And if so, what kind of metrics would we get?
We deliver, first of all, a basic signal: uptime, downtime. Right? Is your app up? Is it down? So that's the most basic metric we deliver. On top of that, we give you response times. Right? So from your API checks, kind of throughout the layers, like starting from a DNS to actual first byte, and then the whole check run. How long did it took? Right. So that's what we deliver on the API side. On the browser side, we have even more insights into your front end performance. So we deliver the web vitals and the whole set of web vitals, and we're also plotting that out into charts over time. So what you, as a user, are able to see is this new version of my application, of my website. Did it influence the performance of my website positively or negatively? And did I make things better in the release 2 weeks ago, or worse? So should I go back and understand? Okay, what did I actually deploy here? What code change? Code did I change?
I've actually used the product and seen the visualizations that you provide, and it's very intuitive. I must say. I was also wondering about, from a visualization standpoint, do you integrate with any other visualization software like a Grafana Labs or something else that would have another way to visualize the metrics?
We have currently 900 paying customers, even more, 900 paying customers, thousands of users using us also on the free plans. And lots of them are using the Checkly dashboard, but also, if you scale your monitoring efforts and your observability efforts, you might have Grafana in place, right? And what we have is we have a Prometheus exporter and just released a new version of it to even give you more metrics in your Grafana dashboard. So the metrics I just talked about, Web Vitals landed last week in the new Prometheus exporter. But we also have a very extensive analytics API, which pretty much allows our users to export almost everything, almost all the details which we have about your app in a certain moment of time to any tool you like, right? So you might not have Grafana, but use Microsoft Power BI or something like that. Then we enable you to plot it there.
That's wonderful. So here's the thing. What about the where you take the product from here? Because it seems like every week I see a new announcement from Checkly that you've added this. Like you were talking about adding the core vitals, and it seems like it's still ever changing, ever evolving. Where do you take the product from here?
I believe we just started, right? So I mean, we have a basic set of synthetic monitoring. I think it's great. It works for our customers. What we want is we want to go even deeper. And right now, we're going deeper on two levels. One is multi-step API checks, so enabling you to configuring more complex checks easier on our platform. With customers from the financial industry, they're testing their payment APIs with encryption, decryption, etc. Today at Checkly, we want to make that easier, not only for the financial industry, but for lots of our users. So that's what we're working on, and then also enhanced playwright support, right? So what we're working on there is snapshot testing, and that enables you to, for example, also use visual snapshots for synthetic monitoring. So that's what one of my teams is working on as well. In the end, the goal is to become a full stack synthetic monitoring service, so you can expect more check types from Checkly in the future, right? And likely also more basic check types like DNS checks, ICMP checks, TCP checks, etc. So that's next on the roadmap there. Also, one important feature which we have released recently, and a lot of our users are using it. I have to admit, even to my surprise, a lot of users are getting started in our UI to create their checks and then export their checks as code into their repository, right? And we developed that export to code feature and seeing lots of usage there. So this seems to really resonate with customers. So we might do more there to get you kick-started and jump-started in our UI and then export that to code. So in the end, to enable you to work with your team on synthetic monitoring.
I think that's great. And I think the reason why a lot of people use that is because they get the indentation a little wrong in their files and they don't want to spend 3 hours figuring out that they missed a space or indentation. So if you can just solve that problem, that would be
Yes.
great. So no, that's great. If somebody is intrigued by this conversation and they want to find out more about Checkly, where can they go? How can they find out more?
Yeah, I mean, you could go to checkthehq.com and start a free trial there. It's really free, so you have a hobby plan, and then you can use Checkly for free until a certain limit. And really check it out, or get in touch with us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and we also have a vibrant Slack community. So if you just want to see what's going on there, join that Slack community.
I'll be joining that Slack community today, and I will also post these links on the show notes as well. It'll be on the website. It'll also be on the YouTube video if people are watching it on that. This is great. Thank you so much for being on the show. And as you develop this product further, let me know of some major updates, and maybe we can get you back on the show to talk about some of the new things that are happening, because this is definitely, it's rapidly changing, but we got to have this today, and it's got to be continuous. And I see this as a great solution for people.
Thank you, Scott. It was great to be here. Thank you.
Okay. I'm trying to calm down. I actually am signing up to use that product today, and I'm going to fill you in on my experience with it in a couple of weeks and tell you what I think about it. I'm actually joining the Slack channel, as he mentioned as well. So all the links are up on the website as of today and in the YouTube video text if you look in the description. What do you think about this? Does this sound like something that could solve a problem for you with active monitoring? If so, I'd love to hear your feedback, and I'm sure Hans would too. You can reach me on most social media. And if you scan that QR code, it'll take you to the bio page where you can find out how to get in touch with me to give me your feedback. If you can't find that, you can always send me an email at heyscott@smcjournal.com, where I'd love to take your feedback. And I can even deliver that to Checkley as well, the things you like, the things you don't like. But try it out. Let me know what you think about it. Do you like this video? If you do, it'd be great if you click the like button and you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That tells me that I'm doing the right thing, providing you with content that you want to see and telling YouTube, Scott's cool. I don't know what it means, but if you would do that, that would really help me. Until next time, this is Scott Moore saying thank you again for watching the SMC Journal podcast, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.